Okay, we're live.
Okay. I think we are about to be.
Well, that's just nifty.
But yeah, I was like, wow, that clip did really well. I should ditch Charlie.
Many such cases. Like, I've been doing the short, like the vertical shorts for all of my clips and putting those on Datapad, and they've been doing really well.
Oh, really? What kind of views are they
Yeah.
getting?
A lot of them have gotten to around 100,000 plus.
Nice. Hello, everybody. Welcome, chat. We're going to get started in just a second. Rogue One retrospective. Streaming versus the Oilers game? I know.
I don't know what that means.
Just the Oilers are... Oilers...
I know what it means. I'm just being...
I got on a second.
I'm doing the whole, what's a sports ball kind of thing. That's my role here.
I go to the Super Bowl and hope everyone has fun.
I still make jokes about superb owls.
It is nice that the Oilers are playing at 9 local time, because usually the game starts at like 11:15. So
are they the only Canadian team left?
Yeah, there's only 4 teams left now.
All right, that's I mean, out of the top 8, there was 4 of them, and then 3 of them lost.
Yeah, Montreal,
and one of them had to
Ottawa. Yeah, one of them had to go. Oh no, there was 5, because there was Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton.
Damn.
Yeah. That was the top 16. Sorry, that was the top 16.
Yeah. Yeah. And then one had to make it the top 8, because that was Ottawa versus Toronto.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Oh, can I just explain? Okay, so chat, you guys probably know the deal because we've been streaming these a lot more, but we are doing our podcast Tapcaf Transmissions here. We're going to be discussing Rogue One today, and you can find a link to the audio in the description. So if you enjoy what you're hearing and you want 200 episodes of backlog at your greasy little fingertips, well, you can have those.
I prefer to call it backwash. 200 episodes of backwash.
Exactly.
Yummy.
Yum.
All right. Do you want me to do the actual regular intro, or
go on then?
All right. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tapcaf Transmissions. I am Corey, one of your hosts, joined by the other host, Mr. Justin Eckhart's Ladder. Last name goes here. How are you doing tonight, Justin?
Good. Feeling very anonymous without you doxing me. It's nice. Unlike the missing Tapcaf episode.
Yeah, I'm not going to give any of the names, but there are like 3 different last names that you've given me. And me and Charlie have figured out the real one, but it's not the ones you've told me before. It
starts with a C, that's all I'll say. Yeah, I'm doing well. I don't know if you actually asked that, but I am doing well.
I did.
Okay, yeah, I'm doing well. We're talking Rogue One tonight, and I did my watch along earlier this week. How about you? I assume you took the time and did the homework.
I watched the movie. I watched it today.
Okay.
I watched it in many parts, though. I did it like between a bunch of stuff. I wanted to digest every section, but I also had other stuff I had to do, and so some of it was conducive to movie watching.
You watched it on TikTok with like
yeah, every part
with Subway
with like
surfers.
The AI voice over it.
Yeah,
Cassian's going in the room.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's how I consume media too.
Yeah. Had it on while cleaning, had it on while making thumbnails. It was great. I mean, I'm going to spoil this. Still my favorite Star Wars movie.
Okay, well, there you go. To do a little bit of promotion, I did my first ever. I've done reactions, but I did it sort of commentary style. So for anyone who wants to see my DVD commentary of Rogue One, you can join the YouTube member program or the Patreon. Do you have any of those up for yourself, Corey?
No, I'm doing an exclusive Empire at War playthrough for losers in my Patreon, but I haven't done any like video commentaries. That feels like a Tapcaf extra that we should also do. But
yeah, we should.
Mystery Science Theater, but with our shitty opinions on it instead.
Yeah, I was like, how much do I yap? And I was yapping the whole time.
Well, that's the point. People are paying money to hear you yap. If they don't want to hear you yap, they're watching the other one.
It was really late, and I poured a glass of whiskey, and I was like, "This is how I start yapping."
I called K2SO a slur.
Hard R at the end of clanker. It wasn't me; it was the whiskey. No, it was like it's tough because with hockey and stuff. So I did it. There were 2 days there weren't games. I did it one of those days, but I was so busy. It was like midnight or like 12:30. I'm like, whatever, we're going live. And I watched it back the next day, and I will say towards the end of the Battle of Scarif, I was looking a little sleepy, but we got it done. We got it done.
Did you make sure to get a lot of like facial reactions in there, or is it just audio?
It's just my face. Yeah.
Okay. So you got to look excited for that. Like these reaction YouTubers, they put a lot of work into
Yeah, I got to work on that. I got to work on that. Yeah.
I mean, we did it for The Mandalorian before, so
Yeah.
we didn't. I think that's the only show we've really done their reactions for. But
yeah, Mando season 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for anyone who, just to make it explicit, we are talking about Rogue One in light of Andor now being finished. So for anyone who is expecting our Legacy of the Force coverage to start, that'll be next week. We'll have Ilkin on from Kings and Generals to talk about Legacy of the Force Book 1 Betrayal. But for this week, we're going to talk about how we feel about Rogue One, 7 years later?
Wasn't it
10 years later?
2017?
It was 2016, actually.
2016? Jeez, 9 years ago?
It's back in time, pre-COVID.
2016, wow. Yeah, I know I've said it before, but it was, for me, it was like the last thing that came out before I started my YouTube channel. Because I started like February of 2017, I think. So
yeah, like I was already doing loses by then, which is why it's very impressive that I've hit 59,000 subscribers. But I wasn't doing lore yet, and I remember I didn't see any of the sequels as they came out in theaters, other than Rise of Skywalker. Like I think I watched Force Awakens maybe 4 or 5 months later in a bad rip, sitting on like
That's
my
wild.
coffee table in my parents' basement. So I could barely see anything the first time I saw it. Last Jedi I watched in like January or February, so a few months after it came out as well. But I saw Rogue One in theaters, which was expensive at the time. So one of my other like streaming friends, I didn't have any money to do it. That's why I wasn't seeing it. Well, he bought me the ticket and sent me, because I wasn't going to go see it in theaters because I couldn't afford to. And he was like, "No, take this money, buy a ticket, and go." So thank you to Bane for that. But
okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
Maybe that's why it's my favorite, because I watched it for free.
I think I've told this story before, but I was living in Toronto at the time, and Toronto, sorry, not Toronto, Toronto. I was living in Toronto at the time, and it was my wife was about to leave me, not because I did anything wrong. She was taking a job in Halifax, so it was not one of the last things we did because it came out in December and she left like a couple months later. But my big memory was that we were both really, really sick. That's also when I was like super in shape as well. So I got food poisoning, like really bad food poisoning off of, I believe, homemade garlic toast. Because I remember puking up the yellow garlic butter. Oh, so disgusting. We were both at both ends, one bathroom in the place, not ideal. 495 square feet or whatever.
Nasty.
But I remember afterwards, I was like,
that was the square footage of the apartment, or like how much came out?
Yes.
The coverage.
Yeah. But I remember afterwards, I was like, wow, I haven't been, as light as I was since high school. And it was right before I came back home for a Christmas trip. So I was like, but I just remember being so sick seeing that movie, because I did go see it at like the tail end of my food poisoning. And I'll always remember that. I saw it, and it was like the big theater in Toronto too, the one on Dundas. So I was like, I do not want to be around all these people.
Yeah. So for this, do we want to do? I don't know if it makes sense to do like the normal kind of plot-focused overview or talk about like more specifically how it lines up with Andor. So we should definitely do a mix, at least some of the second. But do we?
Yeah, I
just
mean, I think
focus on
everyone
that,
knows
or?
the plot at this point. Before we do, is there anything you want to talk about going before we jump in? Obviously, the big discussion point has been there's some video game news in that Outlaws got new DLC. I haven't even sniffed it. But also, there's been the big revitalized Battlefront 2 thing going on now, which is fun to see.
Yeah, the game has the highest player count that it's had in 5+ years last night, which was twice what it was the night before. So I might actually jump on. Like, I'm going to be out of town for a bit, but I might jump on a bit next week. I posted a take that I thought would have people disagreeing with it, but I didn't think it'd be as controversial as it ended up being. Where I feel like I would enjoy Battlefront more if there were fewer heroes at the very least. Like, I don't enjoy heroes in Battlefront, so I just said I would enjoy it less, and that made some people very angry because apparently I said they had to be removed and no one's allowed to enjoy it. But
I think like what I would like is, because I agree, there's too many. I think they're not super overtuned in the new game as bad as they were like in the original Battlefront 2. They should make it so once you play as a hero once, you're done. You get one chance.
Yeah. Like, I prefer it as a shooter. Like, I don't. I got a bunch of people saying like, "Oh, this is just because you're bad. They're not that hard to beat." But it's like, no, I'm not saying they're overpowered. It's just like, if I have enough points to be a hero, I'm kind of annoyed because I feel like I'm not contributing as much if I don't take the opportunity to be Darth Maul running around with 7 other Sith.
Yeah.
But like, I prefer being in, like, especially first person mode. Like, I make the game harder for myself because I want it to be a first person shooter, because that's what I enjoy more. Like, I know I'm not playing the game as offered, but that's why it's my opinion that I would enjoy it more if it were this other thing. And I'd prefer, like, you have the shooter, like the team-based big Battlefield style shooter, and then you have something like Jedi Outcast that is built for like these hero battle style matches. And I think that's 2 different games. And I think if you have 2 games that focus on each of those things, they'll be better. In the same way that Starfighter Assault and Battlefront is kind of trash, but Squadrons is my favorite Star Wars game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I enjoy it, but especially if they moved towards more of a Battlefield style game, which I think is what everyone talks about. I think having heroes diminished would be good. I just get stressed because like I want to play as a hero. If they're gonna be in the game, I want to try them, and it feels like there are people who run up the leaderboard and then they're heroes the whole time. And like the only way you have a chance of being one is like waiting in the respawn screen and like clicking it. So yeah, and I get where you're coming from. I don't know if I fully agree, because I do think there's something pretty cool about just being in a massive battle and seeing a Jedi come through and murk a bunch of stormtroopers, but I get where you're coming from.
I think there can be a role for that. It feels like the game gets so taken over by heroes that it just stops feeling like I guess the kind of shooter I want to play in that situation.
Yeah, that's
which good. Like if people enjoy the hero battle, that's fine. That's great. Good for you. I prefer that in a game that's more built around just doing that. Like Jedi Outcast multiplayer, which I think we should play at some time as well.
Yeah.
Or Jedi Academy multiplayer.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. I just played through Dark Forces 1, Dark Forces 2, and I'm playing Mysteries of the Sith, which I've actually never played before. You play as Mara Jade for most of it, and I'm at I think the second last level. I'm about to fight Evil Kyle Katarn. Emperor Kyle Katarn, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
What was that? What else was I going to say? Yeah, if we did get a Battlefront 3, the other big thing they need to figure out is make like space or flight less disconnected from the ground game, because right now, really, you only fly your starfighters on the ground maps to farm points. I was playing last night for a bit, and I actually got two or three ground kills with a TIE bomber. I was like, okay, let's go. That's pretty rare, though. Like, you need to have more gunships, like LATs and stuff, which are meant to target ground troops, and then you can have your starfighters protect them. They really did try to do everything with that game to please every Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
So bit of more focused
Which makes
experience.
sense for the fact that it was like the only Star Wars game that was
Yeah,
intended to come out for 2 years on either side.
yeah,
But
yeah.
which, I mean, we've talked about our feelings on the limits of Star Wars games before, or the limit on number of Star Wars games in that, and I guess this period before.
Yeah, totally.
But Rogue One.
A Star Wars story.
So I think, how did you feel about Cassian's portrayal in the movie? Like, how does he feel to you coming out of Andor?
I mean, I thought he was pretty honest, or I thought it was a pretty seamless transition. I guess the biggest jump. So my complaint with Rogue One has always been I felt like the character work was a bit weaker, and
Yeah.
Watching it now, Bodhi is, I feel like, really wasted. Where there's a really interesting story there, and he's a really selfless character, but he doesn't get enough attention. Jin feels like she needed more time, and the weirdest thing about the movie after Andor is how it transitions basically to Jin's story. Like, there's one point really before the Battle of Scarif where it becomes Jin's story, where
Yep.
even during the last scene, Cassian says, "Your father would be proud." Like, it's kind of about her story ending, even though it's his as much as hers, and it is. That's a little weird after Andor, but I thought his character was pretty accurate to what we had seen in the show.
Do you think it's equally his story? Like, there's a lot of discussion about that in the last week or so, whether Rogue One is like Cassian's the main character, Jin's the main character.
No, I don't think it's equally his story.
The correct one is K2 is the main character, but
well, yeah, Robotic King.
yeah, because for me, I felt it was a little different for Cassian though, where it seems like what they were going for in the movie is more him as like a dedicated soldier of the rebellion, where like he's got this darker side to him where he's doing what's necessary, but that's like part of being the rebel soldier rather than this kind of like extra thing that comes from Luthen. And I don't hold that against it for not knowing they're going that direction with it. But there's a parts of the movies where especially when they're coming back from Ito, and he was about to kill Galen, and they make a big deal of like, oh, I was following orders, like I'm doing what I'm told because that's part of being in the rebellion. Where like 24 hours ago, he was getting in shit with Draven because he just keeps not following orders.
Yeah, and totally agree with that. It also feels a bit like even Cassian's kind of, it's not really a softening, but the decisions he make, to me, it seems almost as much a part of Jin's storyline and how she's kind of affecting him versus something he does on his own, where he obviously grows to like Jin quite a bit and they trust each other. And I think he feels like he's violating her trust, and he knows how much he cares for her father. She cares for her father.
Yeah.
Rather.
Like it does feel in the movie it's being presented as if what like Jin is bringing to the table is this kind of rogue element. She is the rogue one, and like before then, Cassian and Melshi were these like dedicated soldiers following orders, and that part doesn't quite hold up with what we see from Cassian now. And again, then that's not a problem. It's just something that kind of stood out to me while watching. Like I understand Cassian is probably a much less interesting character if you don't do that. In Andor, and it's not even that it's like super disconnected. It's just a slight difference, and you could even rationalize that by just saying, "Oh well, he knew he'd be in shit if he didn't follow orders after going to get Clea." But
yeah, that's a good point. First thing we see him do is kill a rebel, and
Tivik?
Tivik, who obviously is referenced in Andor. And he doesn't get in trouble for that at all. Like, it's never questioned. We also see him shoot a partisan, which I remember those two scenes really confused me the first time I saw the movie. I think I didn't fully hear what was going on in the theater. So I was like, why did you just kill that dude? Now, obviously, it makes sense. But even, shooting that partisan with the grenade, it's kind of a weird moment.
yeah.
But yeah, he's never questioned about that. So you do get the feeling he's got a lot of leash in what he does, at least.
Yeah. So Cheddering and Chad just thought he was a contact, not a rebel. Now I'm like, in Rogue One, do they call him part of Saw's group? Because I think
They say
Andor
he's
calls
going back to
Tivik.
Scarif, or to
Yeah,
to
because he's got to
Jeddah.
talk to Saw. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was established in Rogue One, not just in because Andor definitely says it, but Rogue One, yeah,
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. It said he's going back to Jeddah. I will say, my biggest thing with this movie is I think the beginning is phenomenal. There are some small issues. I think it jumps around a bit too much in the first 10 minutes or so, where there's like that scene of Jin in the, not even the Juggernaut, in the random Imperial prison, unnecessary. It does these really fast jumps too, where they're like 3-minute scenes. The first scene is excellent, obviously, with Krennic coming to steal Galen, and then it jumps around a bit. I do think the middle of the movie sags. That Iadu sequence is not my favorite. It's part of it is it's so rainy and just dreary, I guess, and dark. The action sequence is pretty cool, but then obviously the ending it knocks it out of the park. It sets it up. It's been set up and it does such a good job.
I think part of the problem with the Ito sequence is that like it's such a character based sequence where it's supposed like it's Jin seeing her dad for the last time, and then you have Cassian's kind of moral quandary, but like your general problem with the movie of it being like not super great with the character work, like that can fall flat. I think I appreciate it more with Andor, but I also feel like the moral quandary we're seeing Cassian face isn't something that matches up super closely with anything we've seen develop in Andor, so there's only so much more that gets added by it. Because like we're like the struggle he has there is whether he should follow his orders versus do what he thinks is right in the moment. And like watching Andor, that's not a problem he really has of like getting to do what he thinks is right in the moment. So I think still, I
guess he's also struggling a bit because he probably does see Galen as a legitimate target. Even though, I mean, the battle station's done. I guess they are worried about building another one, but what
are they going to do? They're not going to do that again.
They're not going to build 1,000 smaller ones either. But he sees him as a military target, but I think he also doesn't want to kill his new friend's dad. So that
is part of it. Yeah, that part fits with Cassian.
So,
but Krennic. Any scene that Krennic is in and anything is just it's so good. It's a miracle. Lyra back from the dead. It's a miracle.
There's Lyra back from the dead.
Incredible stuff.
It's a miracle. Yeah, that's hilarious. I think that's my favorite line in the whole movie. That and the K2SO's not me. I can survive in space. It's funny.
And like K2 and we need like K2 and Krennic in scenes together somewhere. I don't know where this would happen. But if it turns out that
off,
K2 wasn't directly hit, he gets like turned back on by Krennic's half dissolved corpse, and they're just hanging out in space.
So the introduction's great. The Death Troopers are super cool, and it's a pretty serious scene. The music is great. Saw Gerrera picking her up, awesome. I honestly think my favorite sequences of the movie are on Jeddah. I think that it's such a good job with like everything Jeddah when it comes to the set. I tweeted this out. Just little details. When they're flying towards the planet, you can see the holy city with the Star Destroyer over it, just barely, and there's just lots of little details, like all these roads from the mountains heading towards it, and then you go in, and it's like they absolutely nail the costume design, the feel of it. It's the same with what's it called, where Cassian is at the very beginning as well. But Jeddah really is maybe the closest that someone's come to matching the Tatooine style scum and villainy underworld. And there's a lot like
they didn't need to have the two from the cantina there.
No, that's the one thing where you're like, okay. It's a little too deferential to the original trilogy. There's another shot, I think it's in the opening scene, where it kind of lingers on a thing of blue milk, and you're like, all right, like, let's be a little less cute about the OT references. But just like Jeddah, there's so many cool background aliens, and I think I like it partially as well because I just remember, when I started on YouTube, how much fun people had looking at all the background characters, and eventually, they made up or they released stories about a lot of them, so pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd almost say, if you look at it in reverse, like Rogue One almost feels like a movie someone would make if they watched Andor and really took the bricks and screws complaint seriously.
Yeah.
And I don't think the movie is benefiting from that compared to Andor. So
it's just like a budget thing, really.
Yeah.
Like, part of the reason why Coruscant looks like it does is because they need to film a TV show, which has to make a limited budget, a movie budget stretch over, 10 times the amount of footage.
Yeah. Well, I just mean like the tone and like throwing in shit.
Yeah.
For the sake of having Star Wars cameos.
Yeah.
Like, because like those guys on Jeddah feel,
say their name,
more
Pondo Baba and Dr. Evazan.
Those guys. I was gonna say Dr. Zhivago. So
did you know Pondo Baba's name?
Yes, I know both of their names, but I just wanted to say Dr. Zhivago. But
Dr. Zayas.
But yeah, like it just feels like, watching it the first time in theaters, it didn't stand out to me as much.
Mm-hmm.
But watching Andor and then watching it, where like Andor had these oblique references to the Ghost crew being there, and then you didn't have like CGI Hera walking by or something.
Yeah,
like it just felt like so different compared to what Andor would do with that. But like a CGI character that walking by that I did find hugely offensive this time. I wasn't bothered by the quality of Tarkin or Leia the first time I watched the movie, but Tarkin just looks really bad to me watching now.
Yeah, and they give him they put his whole Tarkusy out on display for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, they give him a lot of lines. Definitely would have been better for them to use the Revenge of the Sith guy if they were going to use him. Also, they could have used it more sparingly. Like, the last sequence when the Death Star shows up, they give him like 4 lines of dialogue when we all know what's about to happen. Just show an over-the-shoulder shot of him watching the planet be destroyed. That's all we really need.
Well, especially they just wanted to use the "You may fire when red." Like, they wanted to have say the line, Tarkin.
Yeah.
Which, if they had replaced him with a different actor, like if they just got the fucking guy from Revenge of the Sith, I don't know what he's up to these days. But like I even the guy who plays here, they missed their chance on him playing young Tarkin in the new NBC sitcom spinoff.
I would have liked that. What do you think about Vader? Because the more I think about it, the more I'm like, man, maybe they should have left Vader for the last scene.
Yeah,
I've got mixed feelings because I don't think him going to see Vader. I don't really know if it makes sense. It's not like a plot hole or anything, but I think it maybe messes up the flow of the movie a little bit. I'm not going to complain because I obviously love Krennic, and I think it was James Earl Jones's real last performance as Vader, and I do like how he sounds older. Like, James Earl Jones in this movie does not sound like James Earl Jones in Revenge of the Sith, or certainly the original trilogy. There's one line, I forget what he says, where he's like, an Imperial base attacked, and it doesn't sound like him. It sounds like, an older version. I think that's really cool that we have that. But I wouldn't have minded for it to be a surprise until the end. I think people would have shit their pants even more so than they did, including me with my food poisoning.
I think, like, as much as I think the Vader scene at the end in the hallway is really cool and thematic and kind of like ties, it really increases the tension in the movie. Mm-hmm. I feel like both of the Vader appearances kind of just feel like they're there to have Vader. Like, if you think about them too much, they don't necessarily make the most sense, but like for the last one, it's just rule of cool. Yeah. You have the guy going down the hallway slaughtering all these rebels as they try to get through, rather than just blowing up profundity. And I think that's partially explained by just saying, oh, well, they want to make sure they get the plans back, even though it's like a digital copy of them.
Yeah.
So, like, I understand, like, but the other scene with Krennic doesn't feel as necessary.
Yeah.
But it does help set up something for Krennic in like showing him wanting to make sure that he gets credit for stuff, not Tarkin.
Yeah.
And who do you go to if you're doing this as a rivalry between Tarkin and Krennic? Like, you can't introduce a third guy between Vader, Tarkin, and the Emperor. Like, you have to have, if you're going to someone who's not the Emperor but above Tarkin, it's Vader.
Yeah.
But could they have used the Emperor there?
That would have been interesting, especially because
Ian would not have said no.
No, and he would have been perfect for it.
I think it makes more sense to have Palpatine there.
So I agree. I think the Vader thing ultimately comes down to they're relaunching the brand still in 2016.
Yeah.
From a story perspective, though, I agree. And, we got a lot of cool things. Like, we get Vader's castle as an addition to the canon with that. I'm not sure if it had been anything else, but either way, it's introduced to the masses that way. And, yeah, like, just Darth Vader's arguably the I wouldn't even say arguably. Darth Vader, I think, is pretty clearly, like, the most famous movie villain of all time.
Yeah.
So, I guess they want him in a movie.
Yeah, and that's fair.
Yep, it is.
Especially for a movie like Rogue One, where you're otherwise not going to have any Jedi or lightsabers. Like, especially in 2016, I think that would have been seen as an even bigger risk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think you can do that now with, like, The Mandalorian, where, yes, you have Luke and Ahsoka in Season 2, but you already established Season 1 where, like, you can have this universe without like high profile stuff in this universe without needing the Jedi to carry it. And like Andor obviously has none of that, but you're kind of doing that several years later versus a movie right after starting the sequel trilogy where you were otherwise going to have nothing. So, and you have Solo doing that as well.
Yeah.
But
Rogue One
that's why
as
they
a
threw in
movie
Darth
also...
Maul. That's why Darth Maul turns on his lightsaber in a fucking video call for some reason.
Yeah. Rogue One also benefits hugely from the Force Awakens completely revitalizing people's interest in Star Wars. Like, I'm not going to say the movie would have done poorly had it been the first that Disney released, because I think any of the first Star Wars movies would have done well, but The Force Awakens was just massive, and Rogue One earned over $1 billion in 2016 money. Like, you look at Marvel's, like, their big movies are struggling to hit 400, 500 million in today's money, which, after inflation, it's pretty insane what Rogue One managed to do and how big it managed to be.
Yeah. I mean, do you think anything that Force Awakens did specifically is responsible for that, or is it just like any Star Wars movie in that position probably would have?
I think The Force Awakens. Yeah, I think The Force Awakens. I know people criticize it a lot, and I agree with many of the criticisms, but I think The Force Awakens is almost a perfect blockbuster. It's way too derivative, especially for Star Wars fans. But we have extremely likable characters in Finn, Poe, and Rey. We've got it's funny. This like one thing that I really remember is when that movie came out, the scenes between Finn and Poe were being compared to the quip and the chatter between Anakin and Obi-Wan in Episode 2, favorably to Finn and Poe. So that's good. We've got pretty compelling new villain. We've got practical effects, really good special effects. Interesting, we got a iconic new Star Destroyer, and most importantly, it's just very competently made. And I think the ending hits enough emotional beats that people were really into it. Now, the further we've gotten away from 2015, I think like the more the initial cracks started to show. But like I said before, I think it was pretty much the perfect movie to relaunch things.
That's fair. But with the Marvel comparison, do you think like the comparison to like movies coming out today and not hitting that in today's money. Like, I don't even know if there was something like take equal quality of The Force Awakens and have that come out now. I don't think. Like, I think it's just such a different environment. I don't know that
It
if it
is.
has the same impact. Even though we are going to be going on, what, 8 years after Rise of Skywalker's release before we end up with
Yeah.
another movie in theaters. Because is it 2026 or is it 2027? Because it might only be 7 years
I can't
that
remember.
Mando and Grogu's coming out. I think it might be next year.
I can't
but
remember.
no, that doesn't sound right. Anyways, like it's not a huge gap between say Force Awakens and Episode 3 compared to Rise of Skywalker and Mando and Grogu. Maybe it's different because it's not like a saga trilogy starter. It's like this separate adventure movie kind of thing. Or at least as far as the branding we have so far goes.
I think it's as much. I think like partially because of Marvel, partially because I feel like in the late 2010s we got a lot of wish fulfillment where all these franchises were coming back in a big way. You know, Avengers. I've got some problems with the last two movies, and certainly like the way Marvel is going now, where the last two Avengers movies to me feel like they were designed in a lab to make nerds. Like I say this as a nerd, to make nerds as wish fulfilled as possible, and even like the small things they did in those movies, like the death of Tony Stark and you know the other characters aging out or whatever, they're kind of being undone. I just think nowadays people are a lot less willing to be completely loyal to a brand like Star Wars or especially Marvel, because there was a while where like Marvel released bad movies. Iron Man 2, for example, was not very good. Or the third one of them in particular was really a bit of a stinker. I can't remember which one. And they still earned boatloads of money because they were sort of these part of a connected universe, and kind of people were just buying into that back then. But for whatever reason, fans have been burnt or they're over it, and the pendulum seems to be swinging the other way a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like fatigue is
a
big thing there, and feeling like you can't keep up. Like for a lot of my friends who are more like casually into Marvel and Star Wars, like the thing with them wasn't just like, oh, I thought this show was shit. It's like I haven't watched the last 82 things that came out. I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to get them to watch Andor, but so far I don't think I've had any luck. But speaking of Andor, we've talked about how great Krennic is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's much more to say about how great Krennic is. He's a little whiny. Like he really wants this recognition for his project, and then he gets blown up by it. Very poetic.
Yeah.
What do you think about so you mentioned Jeddah as being the standout scene, but what do you think of Scarif though? Because I think Jeddah and Scarif really carry the movie, which is I mean that's the majority of the movie, so it's easy to say that. But like I think Scarif might be my favorite like space battle in any of the movies, even including Coruscant and Endor.
Well,
so I don't know if that's crazy to say. Is that a hot take?
No, because I think Scarif is the only one that has any sort of like cadence to it, where like Endor and Coruscant, as much as I love them, especially like for me, Coruscant's a distant third behind the other two. Like they're really just a collection of cool scenes. Like as much as I love the Battle of Endor, there's a little bit of movement where they're attacking the Death Star, then they attack the fleet, and then they break off, and you kind of feel the swings a little bit. But with Scarif, it has a real sort of logic, and
you know where everything is at all times, essentially. Like it's a battle you can follow rather than just, well, I guess the others you can kind of follow, but it's like they're stationary set pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can make a pretty good argument that Scarif's the best space battle in anything ever, just because the level of detail is truly incredible at all aspects of Scarif. Like they had so many little things, like the Golan space platform has so many cool little things that feature into the battle, like how it has, like a more boring movie would have just had just a shield gate, or would have had just a base they need to blow up or something, but it has a ring that they fly through. It has turbo laser towers encircling it. It has hangars facing forward. All these really cool little details, and that's just a very small part of the battle. Then you go to the planet's surface, and again, the Scarif research facility could have just been a giant tower, but instead it's like this tower in the middle of this island with all these trains leading to it, and they're draining the ocean. It's just so cool.
Yeah, and like I think it introduces a ton of really interesting ships and fighters and stuff. I think
for
it
sure.
has more than, I want to say, more introductions than any of the original trilogy movies, where you have at least the TIE Striker, you have the Sphyrna, you have the MC-75.
You've got the TIE Reaper.
Was it the TIE Reaper? I think
they've got both. You got the Reaper and the Striker.
Yeah. Where, like, if you look at any of the original trilogy movies, I guess Episode 4 introduces a bit more just in like background stuff, because you have the Millennium Falcon, you have like all these utility ships around. But when it comes to like military vessels, you have the Star Destroyer in Tantive 4, you have X-Wings, Y-Wings,
TIE
Fighters, and the Death Star. I guess 3 types of TIE Fighter. Are TIE Bombers in Episode 4? No. So
just the one
then Episode 5, you add bombers, interceptors, and A-Wings. No, that's 6.
Yeah. That's
so yeah,
6.
You get like 2 new ones with each ship.
I think 6 might have it beat because you get so many new Rebel ships.
The background.
Yeah, but even the Nebulon B was introduced in Episode 5, but you get like the different Mon Calamari cruisers and stuff, because there are like 4 types of the battle, even though they mostly look the same.
Yeah. So, like, as far as space battle fans go, I think, like, Scarif has got to be up there. It's a big part of what makes the movie stand out, and I think really covers up for some of the weaknesses with the character work in earlier parts of the movie, where it can be tough in the middle part and the, like, very early part, where, like, the first couple scenes are really good, then the next few are kind of slow. You get to Jeddah, and then it picks up again, and then Edo is like, okay, I'm kind of checked out, but then once you're getting ready for Scarif and going to Scarif, I think that pulls it together. I think it sticks to landing mostly is what makes it top of my list. I
was excited to see the Braha talk in action, because you see them in Return of the Jedi, but they're only, the model's not very good, or it's too small, but they're pretty cool in this, and I just really love the sense of like the X-Wings really drive the pace of battle, where they ruthlessly and quickly attack the shield gate. They're sort of repulsed by the TIE fighters, and there's the give and go, and I just love that scene where that scene where they're dive bombing at the shield gate is so cool. And then when they're weaving in and out of like the support struts on that Golan station, it's just
and I mean, who can't relate to them, like, not being too late to pull up, where like who hasn't gone for a yellow light and they think they can make it and it turns red and then their car explodes. That's what happens. I don't have my license, so I just assume the car explodes if you run a red light after speeding up through a yellow. Extremely
relatable. Just trying to think some other things I like with the space. I mean, the scene, I really like the scenes too. There's a lot of cool moments where it's like the fleet from above and they look like they're fish. And it's just, there's a cool sense of scale. And I do like how the fleet spreads out and you see probably didn't need to bring all those GR-75s, but I respect it.
No. Well, what else do they really have?
Yeah, there's probably little guns on them.
Like, I do like how the TIE fighters do look like this like swarm of the school of fish coming in and out of the hangars.
Yeah.
And the choreography there is really cool.
Yeah, and then you actually see the Star Destroyers firing their guns, which is like there's one scene where you see the Lightbringer coming at the ISD from the side, and he's actually firing those big guns on each side of the superstructure. Only the front ones. Like, I remember doing a battle breakdown back when it was like a super popular video I put out when the movie came out on DVD, I think. All the Star Destroyers really need to do was attack the fleet. Because we see Vader's one Star Destroyer basically tears them apart. But they were, I guess, trying to protect
Vader's Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
You gotta
got aura.
preserve the Tabana
Yeah.
in the blaster canisters.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right in that not only do they introduce new ships, but they introduce ships which I think do a really good job of matching the original trilogy aesthetic. Like the U-Wing, anytime a U-Wing switches its wing configurations, it doesn't even need to make sense. It's just so sick.
Yeah.
The U-Wing is right there. I think the two TIE models are great. Also, we see various new shuttles. Like we see Krennic shuttle. We have the shuttle that the Rogue One team steals. Then there's also the bigger Ada class transport as well. And like a sign that I think they're well designed is that they've appeared again and again and again in things.
Yeah. Yeah, they almost get used more than other designs of any other provenance, I guess.
Yeah.
But I did give credit to Rogue One for the Sphyrna. It did appear first in Rebels.
Yeah.
But it's still like live action introductions, I think, are a bigger deal.
So was it in Rebels first? Now that I'm thinking,
I think it came out in it's in the Siege of Lothal stuff, right? I think that was first.
Leia gives. It's before the Siege of Lothal because Leia loses 3 frigates.
Yeah, let's see.
There's like this whole thing where they gotta disable the docking clamps.
Princess on Lothal first, so that came out in 2016. So maybe it was made alongside, because it could be a Starhawk situation where the thing it came out in first wasn't actually where it was created. Is there a behind the scenes section? Let's see. First appeared, blah blah blah.
Someone asked, where's the TIE Striker appeared outside of Rogue One? TIE Striker, not so much, because the TIE Striker is meant to be an atmospheric craft, but the Reaper's been in a lot of things. It's been in Squadrons. I feel like it's been in the one of the Jedi games as well. There's a few games, because it's a small Imperial dropship, basically.
Yeah, and the Striker was in Star Wars Commander.
Okay.
So there you go.
They did a really good job. I mean, that was of the era. They did a really good job back then of tying Rogue One into, like, there was Rogue One DLC for Battlefront 1. The DLC was actually pretty cool because you did like a run to the surface, and I can't remember if it was in a U-Wing or an X-Wing. Anyway, there was that, and then all the mobile games got tie-ins. Like I remember I played Force Arena back then, and they had a massive update. I actually used to main Cassian in that game. He was like a sniper. And then I'm trying to think, like you said, Star Wars Commander. So they did back in the day a good job of tying that stuff in. Battlefront 2 ended up having a lot of tie-ins as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a logic to having every 2 years or so have like a main flagship thing that is the center of a lot of media, and then you might have some stuff outside it, but it feels like that gets more and more difficult the more you spread out in the universe. Like the more you have, just the more media you have, it's something that gets more difficult to maintain. Because now we have like the High Republic going on, although that's ending. We have all these different shows that are going on, and there's definitely more of a feeling that things are becoming more and more their own thing, and it's more based on like who's creating it again. Where there used to be this feeling of like, okay, Timothy Zahn's doing Timothy Zahn stuff. Yeah. Now Dave Filoni's doing Dave Filoni stuff. We have the Ahsoka show going this way. We have the animated stuff comes under that umbrella. Then you have Andor in the other corner. So,
yeah, I think part of it was just the movies are so much bigger than everything else.
Yeah.
But I also do think having games like Star Wars Battlefront 2 kind of helped, because when something big was happening, it would get a tie-in into Battlefront and into other things as well. So
yeah, and that is like we talked about that as being part of a weakness for it, that it was trying to be too many things, but that's also part of the strength where like you have this one flagship game that can do all this stuff. You can just throw in all these characters. Like they were still making they were going to be making like new stuff. Like Ventress was going to be a hero, and then they, like, when the game shut down, or at least shut down active development of new content. So, and we really don't have that anymore. It's not even that they don't want to do it. It's just what like you can't put that in Jedi. You
No.
can't put that in. You can sort of put some of it in Outlaws with like outfits, or if you want to do a whole new planet, maybe. But that's a huge undertaking, and it's a single player game, so it's not this persistent thing where people are always going back in. Like I'm a League player as my like main online game, and it used to be at least a big event when like you'd have a new character added every 2 weeks was the release schedule
That's
initially. They
crazy.
have slowed down significantly since then. It's maybe like two new ones a year if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But like Battlefront kind of fit that where like, oh, we have this event coming. And there's not really a good multiplayer platform
There
for
is
Star
one.
Wars right
There
now.
is one. I know you don't play it, but Galaxy of Heroes
Galaxy of
does do that.
Heroes.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah, but that's the entire game and it's a much more niche thing.
I agree. I mean, Galaxy of Heroes is massive in terms of spending, certainly.
Is it massive in terms of like player count or just
I think it's
one
got a
guy?
pretty
Like
big
is
player
Arnold
count.
supporting the whole? Okay,
No, Arnold is supporting. Arnold and Cubs. Actually, Cubs fan Han quit, but
yeah, they lost half the player base.
no, I mean the game makes like an insane amount. You're right that it is mostly whales, but they're like I played for like I think it was 2 years ago. I played it for I was getting kind of into it, and they would release like Ahsoka got like a galactic legend or
Yeah,
what's her name? A weird one was what's her name from Ahsoka? The the one who finds Thrawn. Not the magistrate. What's her name again? The one with the staff. She was,
yeah.
she was in
Fuck, how do I
Mando,
know?
and then she fought Thrawn, or
Yeah,
she
and
fought
yeah,
Ahsoka. Yeah. Anyway, she got one. So
Elspeth
Elsbeth, yeah, Morgan Elsbeth, yeah,
or Elspeth.
yeah. So they're pretty good about that, and it was fun. Like I will say, I appreciated the game more than I thought I would because it's actually
Yeah.
pretty fun. But oh my god, it's also such a piece of shit grind fest. Like to
Yeah.
max a new
Like,
character is thousands of dollars.
And there's very little input you actually have in the game, which is like it's more like it's a gotcha game. It's not even an auto battler.
Well,
So
I think at like the higher level there is quite a bit of strategy where like, and it's very complex as well. Like what these moves do, because it's kind of like a turn-based RPG where each character has like 3 different moves, but by the time I was playing, each move would do like 16 different things, and I just couldn't understand it. Like I was like, it's like, especially the teams, like they become very specialized, where it's like, oh, this. What do you mean you don't understand how this fear interrogation team works? It's simple. Your move generates fear for them, and it's like, okay, chill out. I don't get it.
yeah, there is that bit of that with League as well, where like understanding what 150 odd characters do is just such a big burden for people to get into. But yeah, I guess the last thing I wanted to bring up for Rogue One is Saw Gerrera. He plays a pretty big role in the movie, almost a bigger role than most individual. Thanks, Austin. Most individual members of Rogue One, and it's funnier with the context of Andor, where like he has that scene with Mon Mothma, of like I could be anywhere in the galaxy. It's like no, we know you're
Yeah, you're
we know you're on Jeddah, but then having the dialogue in Rogue One of like, oh, well, we need to find Saw, and Cassian's like, don't worry, we can do that.
Yeah, we
Because now there's the
yeah
yeah,
we can make the
there's the
introductions.
underlying like we know.
I will say, I think I was just stupid, but I never clocked that he thought Jin was a rebel spy, like working for the rebellion.
Yeah.
Like you came to kill me. I thought that he thought she was like an Imperial or something, but
Oh, working for like Galen or something.
well, I don't. I think just generally he was just scared of the Empire. But that's one thing that I appreciated a lot more after watching the show is how
Yeah,
he's like I thought he was just thought she was an outsider, but he specifically thinks the Alliance Center, which is something I never really picked up before, but now it's a lot more clear when you see directly how they don't fuck with each other.
yeah. And Admiral Croissant saying Borgullet's backstory wasn't an Andor 0 out of 10 show. Well, if you want Borgullet's backstory, you need to read Young Jedi Knight's Lightsabers. Whichever one they go to Hapes on, because that's where Borgullet's species from.
Is that true?
Or is from. It's the Hapes Consortium, and they talk to one of them. Yeah.
I'm sure we talked about this, but I don't remember it. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's on like Cheruba. No, it's Myri's because he's a
Myron, yeah.
Myron. And what is it? Yeah, it's lightsabers.
Huh.
And one like comes out of the water and talks to Tenel Ka or something, or Tachum. I'd have to go back and
so
check.
You gotta watch
it's
that
in
episode
there.
of Tapcaf, basically.
Yeah.
Which apparently went in more.
Though the Young Jedi Knights ones were difficult to get through, so.
Yeah. So there you go. I completely forgot that. I mean, Borgullet, it's the exact same thing. My least favorite scene in episode 7 is the Rathtar chase. And
yeah.
Borgullet's better because it's shorter, but it's... They could have used... There must have been a lot of budget on the bullet budget. The bullet budget was high. Probably could have went somewhere else.
I don't think it was that difficult to make.
Maybe not.
Just some CGI tentacles. They probably got that in the Lucasfilm asset store somewhere.
Yeah, probably.
I think Rogue One gives a bigger idea that Saw was like directly affiliated with like the Rebel Alliance than he ever really was per Andor, and even Rebels gives the idea that he was closer as well. But in Andor, there's not really a time where he was. Yeah. So I mean, part of it is that he does split off earlier, because we kind of see in Mask of Fear where he's he's in with Bail and Mon. But the Rebel Alliance wasn't really a thing by then, or until
it's
after
not even
then,
like
so
he split off. It's like they were never... Because, I had the impression that, he was an organized, one of the many rebel cells working, and then he kind of just split off into his own thing.
Yeah.
But really, you watch Andor, and he predated any sort of formal organized alliance. He was always there doing his thing.
Yeah.
Which I like. I do like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, any other rogue topics to jump to for us? We've talked about Ito. We've talked about Scarif. Talked about Jeddah.
Yeah.
Talked about K2, Jin, Cassian.
I really liked the movie. It flew by. I gotta say, there was and again, I was doing my reaction, and it was late at night. They're getting on the shuttle, the U-wing. I was like, "Fuck, what did I get myself into?" But once they're through Edu, it flies. I just want to reiterate how much I enjoy all of the costume and prop and set work in this movie. Yavin is so cool. They expanded it for Andor, but I really think that this movie really shows and again, I adore Andor. It's maybe my favorite Star Wars thing ever, but I think this movie shows what you should expect in terms of quality from a Star Wars movie, because I'm sure it's not like they don't want to have aliens in Andor and, more big set pieces, but they're somewhat limited. When you got 2 hours, that budget goes a lot further, and I think the movie it's just really good looking.
I would say there is an extent to which Tony doesn't want to have aliens in Andor.
Yeah, it's possible.
Tony specifically.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I've maintained it at number 1 for me, with Empire Strikes Back right behind it. Where is it falling for you? We don't need the full. I won't push you to a full ranking. Where are you?
Well, I actually
top third, lower third.
I did a tier list the other day. Should I just read my tier list?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So,
although it does kind of, if we do an episode, I guess we're doing the show tier list, so you can. Yeah.
It's just I did this in 2 seconds. S tier. The original, Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, Episode 3. In my heart, I know that Episode 6 is not as quality as the other two, but it was my favorite as a kid. In A tier, I've got Star Wars Rebels and The Mandalorian, but again, Mandalorian Season 3 would bring that down. And then in B tier, I have... where did I skip over? Oh yeah, B tier, I've got Force Awakens, Rogue One, Ahsoka, Clone Wars, Bad Batch. C tier, Last Jedi, Boba Fett, Episode 1, Solo, Skeleton Crew, Episode 2. D, Acolyte and Kenobi. E is Episode 9, and then, yeah, that's the main ranking. So I
right,
really
that's
liked
fair.
it. I got in a B. It could. This was before I rewatched it. I might actually move it up to an A because I really, really enjoyed it.
All right. So when we do our rankings, I think we'll just do the shows, but we'll do it by season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so I might have to remind myself of like what's in what Clone Wars season a bit, but maybe we'll do that a bit quicker.
Clone Wars
but maybe we'll just keep it as a show or like
Clone Wars to me, I feel
mid-late.
good about. I know the vibe of the show. Clone Wars, that feels like a B to me.
Look, I was gonna put it on C or D, and I need this because like I need to be able to direct those fucking comments somewhere.
Yeah, I think if I rewatched every
controversy
episode of the
Clone
Clone Wars and like ranked each episode, it would maybe fall because there are so many, C or D. Like that Mon Calamari arc, hate it. Like that, and that's like 4 episodes. And that's gonna bring the show down a bit. Where Rebels, I think, is the opposite.
Yeah,
I love Rebels.
yeah, I love Rebels as well. Clone Wars is
Yeah,
but
I mean, I think we've both been pretty open about that. There's like things that make us unpopular in the Star Wars podcast scene. We don't really like Clone Wars as much, and we don't like the Darth Bane books.
yeah. There's something else. It's our takes on Battlefront, especially my take on Republic Commando, though. That's the thing that I think gets people.
Yeah.
The fact that we're correct about Republic Commando not being that good.
Yeah. We should do a playthrough of that for an episode because maybe we'll feel different. Because remember, I didn't like. I thought I wasn't gonna like.
No, I did it. I did that. It was not fun.
I did it like 2 years ago.
Not fun.
Yeah, not fun.
If stuff would just die faster, like if I didn't need to tape down the melee button and go get a meal made, it'd be better. But
Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
all right. Well,
that being
now
said,
that
I knew I liked Jedi Outcast, but I think I like the original Jedi Knight even more. That's one thing that I've learned playing it. Yep.
Well, that's. I mean, I need to play Dark Forces 2 soon. I haven't finished Bounty Hunter since the re-release there.
Me neither.
I was having fun with it, but
I've never played it.
It's all right. It's not like the best game ever, and I don't think it was like super great for the time either, but it's reasonably solid general core game loop. It's an okay little shooter.
I'm going to recommend there's a YouTube channel called Young Junko. He makes phenomenal content, super high effort, very funny. And he did a retrospective on, he's like a big Star Wars fan. I've talked to him, he's really nice. He's done a retrospective on PS1 and N64 Star Wars games. And the one that I need to play is Battle for Naboo, because I didn't realize how close it was to Rogue Squadron. So that's one that I've got to play.
Yeah. All right. Maybe I don't know if we should, I guess, play more Star Wars games again and then go back to our game ranking podcast, because we did one of those a couple of years back. I don't think our rankings would have changed all that much, and it's really just Jedi Survivor and Outlaws that have come out since then. So not huge changes there. But next week we'll be talking about Legacy of the Force Betrayal. Week after that we'll probably be doing the show ranking.
If we get a Dark Forces 2 remake, like a remaster from Night Dive, like we did with the first game, that would be a really fun episode.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts? Would you like to say goodbye to the good folks at home?
Just really happy to watch this one, and I mentioned that I did the commentary. If there's one you would like to see Corey and I do, sit down and watch a movie. I mean, I think I could stand Corey for. Well, we might need to break it up into segments, but that could be fun.
Okay. I have a request.
Plus, that could be a way for people to give us money. We could start a Patreon.
Yeah.
We need to cash
people
in
give
on
me
this.
money.
Like, we need to cash in on this. We really do. The amount of effort I've put into this podcast.
What is there to cash in on? It's not a big podcast.
I suppose.
I get the 2,000 views on each episode, and then we get the 1,000 listens of the audio version. Speaking of which, can you please upload the audio version for this one? I'm going to be gone.
Yep, I can do that.
All right.
Rest in
That's
peace
going to do it
Corey's
for this week,
grandmother.
though. Yes, that is why I will not be here. But thank you for listening, everyone. Thanks for watching on the live streams, on the audio feed. You can find us anywhere Tapcaf Transmissions are sold. Just Google Tapcaf Transmissions. We'll probably get some email questions in the show ranking episode as well. The betrayal is going to be a lot to talk about, so we probably won't do it in there. But yeah,
We're moving into a post-Andor era.
yeah, that's scary for me.
Yeah, me too.
All right,
Okay, goodbye, everybody.
let's go contemplate that. Bye, everyone.